All right? Are there any questions at this point before we move on? Let's now look at what is called the CalPerfect paradigm. You know what the word paradigm means? A paradigm is basically a model or a pattern that then you can apply to other new words that you maybe didn't know. And so we're going to use the verb pakad, which means to appoint or to visit, as our paradigm for the CalPerfect conjugation. And once you learn the paradigm here, then we can come over and take a verb like shema and replace the pei, kof, and dalet of pakad with the shin, mem, and ayin of shema to hear, leave all the vowels and all of the personal endings the same, and then we would have the conjugation of shema. He heard, she heard, you heard, I heard. Okay? So we really want to learn this pattern because we're now not just learning the endings, but we're also learning that the CalPerfect has a unique set of vowels that go under roots 1 and 2. So as we discuss these, we're going to think in terms of root numbers. The root letters, the consonantal root letters, I will frequently, as we're reading exercises and whatnot, I will frequently jot down numbers 1, 2, and 3 above the 3 root letters so that we can think about what happens under root 1, what happens under root 2, what happens with root 3. Okay? So, what's the standard vowel pattern for the CalPerfect 3MS? What kind of kametz is under root 1? Is that a kametz or a kametz ketuf? It's a kametz. That's a long A. What's pathak? Pathak is a short A. So I have long A, short A. Okay, that is the standard vowel pattern. That is the most important set of vowels for you to know. Okay? And by the way, why does Hebrew, unlike us in English, when we conjugate verbs, we start with things like I eat, you eat, right? He, she, it eats. We start with first person and work our way down to third. Why does Hebrew start with the third person and work its way down to the first? Well, it's because the third person is the simplest form, right? I want to start with the simplest and then add things to it, okay? So that's why Hebrew starts with third person and works its way down. It may seem backwards, but hey, you're used to that, right? We're reading backwards now, so get over it, all right? By the way, there are some Hebrew textbooks that do start with first person. But that is traditionally not how the grammarians have done it. All right, so the way to say he appointed or he visited is pakad with no ending. So say that with me, pakad. All right, now, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to start with these consonants and vowels, and we're just going to start adding the endings that you learn from the boxes that I've given you up here. So what do I want to add to pakad to make it third feminine singular? She appointed. I'm going to add a comma te. So think about that for a minute. If what I'm starting with here is the letter or the vowels, and let me go ahead and just delete this. Pakad with a long A, short A, and then I add the comma te here. Is comma te a consonantal or a vocalic ending? It's vocalic, which means it's a vowel. Vocalic. Yeah, it's a vowel, right? What is the dalet going to do when it sees that vowel? Yes, it is going to separate from the closed syllable that it had, because go back to this. If I were to divide my syllable here, I'd have pa-kad. Pa is open, kad is closed, right? So when I start my paradigm, dalet is a closing consonant. We could think of it as a marriage. And we're going to learn something about root 3, okay? So basically, root 3, when we start, is married to root 2. and the syllable is a closed syllable. Okay? Root 3, though, has some ways of looking at things. For root 3, vocalic endings are sexy. Consonantal endings are ugly. Can you remember that? Vocalic endings are sexy. Consonantal endings are ugly. Well, look, I have pakad, okay? I'm going to reproduce pakad here just to get what I start with. I add a sexy vocalic ending called kamete to the end. Dalit says, hey, we were hanging out together, you and me, Kof, root 2, but I like vocalic endings. And he is going to slide over and take the vocalic ending, start a new syllable. That's going to leave the ka open, and where's my tone going to go? The tonic syllable is on pakad in the basic form, but when I add the kamete, where's the tone? It goes to the end. It's on the da. So this is open and pre-tonic. What did we learn verbs do with open pre-tonic syllables? Yes, they reduce to vocal shava. Nouns reduce open propretonic syllables, right? But verbs reduce open pretonic syllables. And so pakad, this ka, is going to be left open and pretonic. And Hebrew is going to reduce that to what? A vocal shava. So that's why I've got a vocal shava here. And notice that with that kamet, I now see a metheg. Why is that metheg there? Yes, it maintains the long A vowel and tells you to pronounce the shava vocally, right? So here I do get a vocal shava. So pakad, when I add the kamete, becomes pa-ku-da. Not pakada, but pakuda. Pakuda. Say that with me, pakuda. Pakuda. Let's talk about the second masculine singular form. If for a minute I just get rid of the ending here and say, okay, remember, always start with the 3ms vowel pointing. I have pakad here. I want to say you did it. I add ta to the end. Is ta a consonantal or a vocalic ending? Okay, ta is consonantal. And what does root 3 think about consonantal endings? They are ugly. That's right. So is he going to want to go start a new life with this consonantal ending over here? No. He is going to stay right where he is and stay married to root 2, and he is not going to leave. You see? He's going to keep closing the syllable. Now, if he's closing the syllable, what do I need to have under that consonant? I need a silent shava, right? I can't have nothing here because every consonant in a Hebrew word has to have something with it, right? Either a vowel or a shava. So if the dalit's still closing the syllable as pakad, we need a silent shava there. So this is pakadta. Pakadta. Say that. Okay, great. Now, if I want to say you appointed, and the you is a woman, second feminine singular you, I'm going to add the t. Is that consonantal or vocalic ending? It's consonantal. So is the dalit going to stop closing the syllable and go start a new syllable somewhere? Nope. Going to stay married to root 2, isn't he? Root 3 and root 2 stay happily married here. He's a real scoundrel, isn't he? Constantly going back and forth, back and forth. Sowing his wild oats, I suppose. Anyhow, so it's... Now remember, we're not going to vocalize either of these shavas, so you did it. You visited woman is pakad. Pakad. Say that. All right. And then if I want to say I appointed or visited, I'm going to add the ending T. Now T is a consonantal ending. So the dalet is not going to stop closing the syllable. It's not going to move over. It's going to just stay with root 2. So I'll get a silent shava there as well. So that's pakad-ti. Say that, pakad-ti. All right, great. Notice that my accent is where? When I'm doing these conjugations, the accent is on root 2. Did you notice that? The only time it's not on root 2 is with these vocalic endings. Remember the vocalic endings, like the ah, im, and ot on the nouns? They're the tug-of-war kid at the back who's heavy, who pulls the stress to the back, right? So otherwise, root 2 is stressed. So that's our pattern. Root 2 is stressed, except for vocalic endings. And then we're going to learn on the other side about the heavy consonantal endings. Okay? Let me let you hear me say it, and then I'll have you repeat. So think about where my stress is. It's on root 2 unless I have the vocalic ending here. Pakad, pakda, pakadta, pakad, pakadti. Now notice that I don't have an accent mark on pakad. Why not? Because it's the final syllable already. And I always assume what? Final syllable stress. So I don't need to put an accent mark there. What about this one? Pakadta. You see the accent mark here? Why? Well, because it's not final syllable stress. I got another syllable at the back now, right? Look at this one. Why is there not an accent mark on pakad? Yeah, there's not an extra syllable at the end. That's right. And that is to say, the kof has the final vowel, doesn't it? And so therefore, this whole thing is the final syllable. It just happens to have a consonant cluster at the end. Okay? It's pakad. So since this is the final syllable, I don't have to put an accent mark. So you won't see one in our book. And then for the T ending, it's pakad-ti. I do have a syllable at the end that's not stressed, and that's why I have the accent mark here on root 2's kof. All right? Now let's real quickly walk through the plural side. If I want to say they appointed or visited, I'm going to add a shurik. Is that vocalic or consonantal?
Vocalic.
It's vocalic, right? So to go back over here, if I start with my basic vowels from the 3MS, add the shurik, root 3 follows the shurik, root 2, so then the tone goes here. Root 2 is left open and pretonic, and verbs do what with that? Reduce them to vocal shava. Exactly. And so that's why I have what I have in this form. Okay? Pakadu. Thank you. Like a rooster. Pakadoodle-doo. Right? Pakadu. Pakadu. Okay. The second masculine plural and second feminine plural, y'all, is tem and ten. Are those vocalic or consonantal endings? Yes, these are consonantal, aren't they? And because they're consonantal, does root 3 think that this is a sexy one or an ugly one? Ugly. And that's why root 3 is going to stay married to root 2 and not separate. Okay? So that means I'm going to get a silent shava under these. Now, there's one other thing that happens here. I'm starting with a long A under root 1, and I see the long A all the way throughout here, right? You see all those long A's under root 1? You got a long A under root 1. What do I have here under root 1 with tem and ten? Yeah, those are vocal shavas. Okay? So they were kametzes here, but I've got vocal shavas. What's going on here? Well, if I were to divide this into syllables, let me just go ahead and do that. Okay? Pa-kad, and I add tem, I'd have pa, kad, tem. Where is my accent based on the way this is written? Pa, kad, tem.
End.
It's on the end. I'm going to put it in parentheses here because I don't have to write it down, right? I assume final syllable stress. That means that this is pretonic and the pa is propretonic, right? Now, will I feel any need to reduce this pretonic syllable to a vocal schwa? Do verbs want to reduce any pretonic syllable to a vocal schwa? No. What kind of syllables do verbs reduce to a vocal schwa? It's not just pretonic. They have to be open and pretonic. Okay? Closed and pretonic syllables don't reduce to vocal schwa because no closed syllables reduce to vocal schwa. In all of our reductions to vocal schwa, what we saw was open propretonic syllables reduced to vocal schwa and open pretonic syllables reduced to vocal schwa, right? But we have never seen a closed syllable reduce the vowel of the closed syllable to a vocal schwa. All right, so you got to remember that. It's only open syllables that will go all the way down to a vocal schwa. But cod is not open, is it? In pakadtem, the cod is closed. That's why there's no reduction here. But the pa is open. Okay? Pakadtem. And if we can't reduce the pretonic syllable, the verb is going to say, well, let's do the next best thing. Let's reduce the open propretonic syllable, because that's something that Hebrew does like to do where it can. And so notice then that what we end up getting is not a kametz where we have it everywhere else under root 1, but a vocal schwa. Okay? Tem and ten. Let me go back over here to our transliterations of these personal endings. My personal endings are ta, t, ti, tem, ten, nu for the consonantal ones. All right? If I were, I know this is sort of silly, okay? But just humor me for just a minute. If I were to make a scale here, okay, there's my base, and I've got the two arms of the scale. And I were to put, let's say, ta on one end of the scale and tem on the other end of the scale. And you're going to see which one weighed more. Which one do you think would weigh more? Ta, the second masculine singular form, is a consonant and a vowel. Tem is a consonant and a vowel and a consonant. So clearly, if we put these on a scale, which one would weigh more? Tem. The one with the extra consonant, right? And that's why these two, because tem and ten are consonant, vowel, and a consonant, where these other ones are either consonant, vowel over here on first plural, consonant, vowel, or it's just a consonant and not even a vowel, right? So these two, tem and ten, these are called the heavy consonantal endings. And folks, do I have to explain this to you? But when you put a heavy ending at the end of the tug-of-war rope, what's it going to do? It's going to pull the stress where? To the end. To the end. So we always stress root 2, except for where? Except for where we have vocalic endings, because those pull the stress back, and the heavy consonantal endings, which are tem and ten. The other ones are light, and they do not pull the stress back to the end. Does that make sense? In some bizarre way?
Yeah.
Okay. The last form, if we want to say we did something, we appointed, for example, then we add the consonantal ending nu. Since nu is a consonant, root 3 does not like it. Root 3 will stay with root 2 in a closed syllable. Pakad nu. Pakad nu. Say that with me. Pakad nu. So we appointed. We visited. All right. So that is the the perfect conjugation. Did we see some silent shavas here?
Yes.
Yes. Silent shavas, those are very helpful. They tell us that a syllable is closed, right? That the consonant with the silent shava is closing a syllable. Do we see any vocal shavas?
Yes.
Yes. 2 places have vocal shavas, right? Where are they? Third feminine singular, she appointed, and third common plural, they appointed, and then where else?
Those two.
Yes, those 2. The root 1 reduced to it's a long A to a vocal shava when the heavy endings were added, tem and ten. Okay? So I have 4 places that have vocal shava. Okay, so I'll just put VS here. Right? So there they are. So what do you suppose is going to happen if I have a sequence of verb roots, not pakad, because this doesn't apply to pakad, but what if I had a guttural consonant in root 2 position? Can I put a vocal shava under a guttural?
No. Has to be a compound.
Yeah. Let's just review that matter of gutturals. What are the 5 consonants that make up the guts gang?
A.
Hey, aleph, chet, ayin, and my guts wannabe is resh. What are the 3 characteristics of gutturals? They don't take no dagesh forte from anyone. What does this apply to? All 5. Okay. The other 2 apply to all but. Yep. So we'll just put not resh over here. Number 2, vocal shava. Can't do it. What do we replace it with? Compound shava. Silent shava is okay. Number 3, gutturals prefer what? A-class vowels. And, aleph prefers what? Yes, aleph prefers segol. So if it can get a segol, it will. Okay? These last 2 are not resh issues, but they are certainly for the first 4 guttural consonants. All right. So what does that mean? If I have a guttural here in root 2 position, all the other vowel points will stay the same, but where I want to put a vocal shava there, what am I going to have to put instead? A compound shava. A compound shava.